And Mama Kay.
I am also here.
And Jess.
Present.
Not Jess.
Jess?
No. Jess. That sounds like Jess.
Where's Jess?
I mean, I sound like a manlier voice.
Oh, who's that? Beast.
Playing the voice of Jess tonight will be Griffin.
That is Griffin. Griffin has been on before, once or twice. Say hello, Griffin.
Hey, everyone.
Hello,
Welcome
Griffin.
To the amazing podcast today.
Yeah, it's enough. Jess is gallivanting in Galveston?
Galveston.
Galveston? No, she's in
Galveston.
She's somewhere in Texas.
Order.
She's somewhere in Texas gallivanting during the biggest movie weekend of the year, so we had to get a fill-in for
Jess.
Oppenheimer. Tonight we are doing Oppenheimer, the new Christopher Nolan 3-hour behemoth. Oppenheimer, everyone knows about this, right? Going in, Nicole, okay, Griffin, Jess.
Yes. I never saw a what do they call them? Preview. I never saw a preview for this. I gathered due to knowing about history what it was about, but I didn't see anything. I don't know how I dodged it all.
You didn't see any of the trailers for it? It was like whenever I went to the movie theaters,
nothing.
It was like every single trailer I went past month.
Oh, I don't go to the movies, Griffin.
Yeah, no. She only goes she goes twice a month when I make her for the show.
And I make sure to get there 20 minutes late so I don't see that shit.
Yeah,
I saw them on the television, so that's when I saw the trailers.
I saw them on the television. Did you see it?
That's why I said it like that, because I know nobody else has cable TV, so...
So you saw this when the movie took place, is when you saw it. Oppenheimer was... Griffin, you knew Oppenheimer was coming?
Yeah, I knew Oppenheimer was coming for the past few months.
During World War II, Lieutenant General Leslie Groves Jr. appoints physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer to work on the top-secret Manhattan Project. That is a really wordy thing, but I'm going to stop there because it's about Oppenheimer and another guy played by Robert Downey Jr. that we learned about. This has a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes with 94 with the critics, 93 with the audience. So 8.8 on IMDb.
Are you?
Look at these scores. Opening box office 174 million. So wins all around. Everyone loving Oppenheimer time. Do we read the cast?
Maybe not the actual time.
Maybe not the actual. Oh no, okay, maybe not. The cast. There's a couple people that you might have heard of in it. Shall I read? There's a couple names.
Yeah.
Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt. Yeah, every single name. Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt, Matt Damon, Robert Downey Jr., Florence Pugh, Josh Hartnett, Casey Affleck, Rami Malek, Kenneth Branagh, Benny Safdie, Jason Clarke, Dylan Arnold, Tom Conti, James Darcy, David Dastmalchian, Dane DeHaan, Alden Ehrenreich, Alex Wolff, Scott Grimes, Josh Zuckerman, Matthias Schwagfler, Jack Quaid, Josh Peck.
So all these names are pronouncing off the German accent.
We've gone too far already.
Matthew Modine, David Krumholtz, Emma DeMont, Gary Oldman's in there for a second, Macon Blair, James Remar. Okay, there's still recognizable names I haven't even got to in the cast list, but the point is, there's about 100 people in this movie. It's a bunch of men. And everyone who's not in some other movie that's playing right now is in this movie, and then everyone who's not in that other movie is in that movie. So, Christopher Nolan film, I don't think I've said that yet, of all the things I've talked about.
I think you have.
Have I?
One time.
Okay. Inception.
This is the drinking portion of our podcast. Every time you say Christopher Nolan, you drink.
Inception, The Dark Knight Trilogy, Interstellar, Dunkirk, Tenet. We all loved Tenet, remember, guys?
No.
What do you guys think of all those movies I said? Christopher Nolan films, do we like them?
I mean, they're all good, except the one you just said.
One film.
Tenet was not my cup of tea over there.
Tenet was pretty
just
good.
Dunkirk. Dunkirk only.
You only like Dunkirk? You don't like any other movies?
This should not be a surprise to anybody who has either been on the podcast with me or listened to a podcast.
It's just quality stuff. It's just surprising. Nicole, do you like any of the movies I said? You like Dark Knight, right?
We like to listen to the Hans Zimmer soundtrack at work. Really makes our day go by.
That's true. I've actually heard of a lot of people do that. I've known multiple people to listen to the Dark Knight and Inception soundtrack too.
Interstellar, it's a good one.
Interstellar actually is a really nice soundtrack.
Ironically, while I was at work today, I was listening to the Oppenheimer soundtrack, so just listening to all the noises.
Oh, there you go.
Oh my god, that is a podcast upon itself.
It was just
honestly.
a war zone on a soundtrack.
I was in my
bombs going off.
My mundane office job, and all I could hear is just explosions in my ear.
Oh my goodness.
If you haven't seen Oppenheimer in theaters now, did I say it's directed by Christopher Nolan?
Oh, shit.
Drink.
Chug.
In theaters now, if you have any interest, we're going to spoil all 3 hours of it now. So this is taking place over multiple decades of Oppenheimer's life, from the 20s when he is just starting out in Cambridge, all the way up into the 50s and 60s when things have kind of gone wrong. You know, there's the heyday in the 40s with his bomb making. Who doesn't know about Oppenheimer? I know Mama Kay said that she knew somebody who's like, oh, Oppenheimer, what's that about? I'm like, what's Oppenheimer about?
Yeah.
There's not really...
That was a little distressing, honestly.
It's an uncommon name. I would say if you invoked the name Oppenheimer to anyone and they either didn't know what it was or they would think of this gentleman who...
It's a bit Hitlery.
Physicist, a bit Hitlery, Jesus. Physicist who is, as a person, a kind of a prickly, acerbic man, as portrayed by Cillian Murphy in this movie. And the other kind of character who's played weaving in and out of like the 50s-ish era of this is Robert Downey Jr.'s character, almost unrecognizable Robert Downey Jr. as Louis Strauss, who is trying to get, he's getting committed to be a confirmation for Secretary of Commerce. He's getting confirmed by the Senate, and he needs a vote to pass, and the only thing that's hanging up is his involvement with Oppenheimer and all of these bomb shenanigans. And so we go through Oppenheimer's life, and we learn about him. It's a biopic. And he created the bomb, in case I haven't said it already. He made the bomb. And Christopher Nolan directed this film. So let's start with resident Christopher Nolan fan, Mama Kay. What'd you think of Oppenheimer?
Are you sure you want to start with me?
I do, actually. Yeah.
This movie made me so angry. I was so angry at the end of this movie. I was passionate about this movie in the angriest of manners. We were driving the sports car home, and I was yelling in the sports car with the roof down because I was so mad at this movie.
I love this. I didn't have this side of you.
Me neither. I'm glad we are not going to agree.
So mad at this movie. There was, when Griffin just earlier started talking about the soundtrack, which I dig on soundtracks a lot. I listen to them a lot outside of movies. There was a soundtrack playing during this whole film that I don't know how people didn't just automatically... I feel like it was something in the soundtrack saying, if you have a weapon, use it on yourself now. If you have a weapon, use it on yourself now. Because it was
extreme subliminal advertising you're accusing us of.
Painful 3 hours, including naps, of my life. It was... So it was the worst. The music made my teeth grind. I was on edge.
That's the whole point. You're supposed to be on edge.
No, I was sold a bill of goods that I didn't get. So when we were talking about trailers, I have seen the trailer to this, and I've seen the trailers on TV since we've seen the movie.
Great trailer.
And I'm like, that is not the friggin' movie that I saw. The movie that I saw was just a movie that made me want to sleep. And also because I wanted to sleep because the soundtrack was grating in my head. Like, honestly, it was telling me to do bad things.
Wow.
Yeah. And I believe that that's what this movie's about. It's telling people to do bad things.
Well, I guess.
Then we might agree. That's not possible.
Subconsciously. Yeah. I mean, consciously, yes, for part of it. But subconsciously, throughout the whole film, it's just like, there's no way. I feel that there was something subliminally done through this whole movie, and I caught it, and I wanted.
It wasn't
out.
About the fascist.
I've never wanted to leave a theater more since RoboCop.
Since RoboCop, the first one or the remake?
The first one, not the remake.
Oh, that's a long time ago. That's like,
I haven't even seen any of those.
Yeah, it was 1980 something, and
ago.
If the theater weren't full of people and I wasn't like third or fourth row, I would have bolted out of there like lightning. This movie made me so mad.
That's really interesting you say that about the subliminal messaging because, as we talk further, I'm sure we'll bring up perhaps how some of the cast felt about being in this. And
okay. I'm interested.
I don't know if you're that far off from a consensus from some.
Boom. I mean, nice literally, boom.
I mean, you could have said that movie literally belonged in this.
Well, it hasn't. It's actually gotten excellent reviews and lots of money, and that's going to win Best Picture.
Well, yeah.
In most cases, it's about in the wrong eyes one.
Oh, in the eyes of people that just don't go and watch a movie and be like, "Oh my God, it's Christopher Nolan," drink, and that's not where I live on this planet. Clearly,
I'm not the biggest.
Griffin, fix that, clean that up. What'd you think of Oppenheimer?
So I'm gonna have the complete opposite opinion. And Oppenheimer was a fantastic film, I believe, because for all the nuances of I loved how the direction was taken with the different shots of Cillian Murphy's character shot in the actual atoms exploding in the inside of the bombs and stuff. That really showed
a lot of good visual.
All the good visual cutting was really good in that movie. That was my biggest takeaway from throughout the film. But obviously the performances and all great characters. Like Robert Downey Jr. played a really good Louis Strauss. Way better than he did in any of the Iron Man movies, I thought. So, and then
better than Iron Man. That is quite a strike.
Dang,
a career-defining role. I would say better than.
I think he's getting milking by the
less than zero.
By the Marvel teats, but that's what I think.
Okay,
Sherlock Holmes though.
Sherlock Holmes. That's a Guy Ritchie film. We don't slander Guy Ritchie here.
That's true.
I loved Emily Blunt in it. It was great. She had some great scenes towards the end when you talk more about when she was getting interrogated, which is my favorite scene in the movie. And then the visual effects of the actual bomb exploding in the very middle-ish end area where you just saw the blinding flash of light. And when you're in a super dark movie theater and it just flashes, especially I was watching this in IMAX, so when I saw this, it was just flashing light and the whole theater just lit up in a bright light and then it just went pitch black. It was a really good experience.
You gotta tell you at the end of this if it's worth it in IMAX. We saw it in... We couldn't even see it in the biggest theater at our theater because all the big theaters were taken up by Barbie. So we had to see it in a middle-sized screen because they weren't, and there weren't really any theaters around us. All the big screens were Barbie screens, which is, you think they'd have one. I understand that you're going to sell more for Barbie, yeah. PG-13 versus an R-rated movie. You're going to get more butts in the seats, but you should have one screen.
But Barbie wasn't in IMAX, was it?
For me, it was.
No, I think an IMAX theater.
I don't think our theater has IMAX.
Yeah, the one we go to doesn't. We could have driven 2 hours away and saw it, or an hour and a half away and saw it in IMAX, or paid. There were options, but the theater we frequent, it was.
Gotcha.
Yeah. All right, so we got a glowing review and a scathing review. Nicole.
Oh, what am I gonna do?
I feel like you're going to fall somewhere or not. Maybe in the middle.
In the middle? Yeah, I could say that. I think I could take a little bit from each of you guys so far. I found this very visually captivating. One thing that I hate, and I've made this very clear, and especially with Christopher Nolan, I hate that he fucking does this all the time. I don't know why this is his thing, but I hate back and forth time travel stuff. It's not time travel, but you know what I mean? Like past to present things. And I appreciate that they did it in a way where one decade is black and white and the other is color.
Right.
I think they should have been switched, although I know that the majority of the movie happens in the earlier time as opposed to the trial in quotes. Yeah, I don't like that part of it because it took me a while to understand what was going on, especially when I think of black and white as older, so I would have thought of that as 40s as opposed to 50s. I don't know, it was fucking with my head. So I wish that was changed. I guess you can't have the majority of the movie in black and white because I think Mama Kay would have driven that car off a cliff if that was the case. But I really was interested in the story as it started to unfold. I don't know if I'm supposed to know other people in this film besides Albert Einstein and the president and those important people, like the general. I don't know if I'm supposed to know him, how much importance he holds during this whole time, like what we learned in school, etc. Strauss, I've never heard of him before, so I didn't know what his deal was. So all that stuff I was kind of learning as I went along and trying to understand their characters. So that made it more interesting to me, I think, because I didn't have a preconceived notion about these people. Not to say that I'm a fucking Oppenheimer expert, because I didn't really quite know what his background was like either. So it was cool to see them interacting with like Albert Einstein, and I guess when now like we don't quite understand when Albert Einstein was around and doing his work. Like I feel like it was so much earlier than this, but
right.
It was like the 20s, 30s, 40s. Like why am I thinking Albert Einstein was around in the 1800s? Like I don't know why my brain was doing that.
I think a lot of people do. He feels like he's living in the Mark Twain era.
Yeah, definitely. Because he gets categorized with all those people, and it's always like in black and white photos of Albert Einstein. You think he's some ancient dude, and he probably died, I don't know, 80 years ago or something. But yeah. So that part was a little confusing for me. I got over it when we get into the meat of it. They're doing this, and the internal conflict of Oppenheimer of, do I do this for my people, the Jewish community in Europe? Do I do this for the U.S., or do I not do this because I'm about to kill a bunch of innocent people? That internal conflict is very real to me. I felt that throughout the movie. Where I disagree with Griffin is I don't think Emily Blunt was good in this. I think she dragged it along quite a bit for me when we get into more of her story. I do like how they had their story together to show kind of their twisted relationship, very tortured relationship. They were just by what either of them are doing at any given time.
They're way too self-centered to be married. I mean,
they really are.
Give up their baby for somebody else to raise.
Dude, they're so monstrous.
I think they're so monstrous.
But in like the most in a way that like I didn't. Maybe I don't know if they were really like this, but like cinematically, I wasn't expecting when he gets home and she's been drinking all day and like and she's like, she's like so she's finally, you're finally home, and you just hear the baby. I mean,
we can kind of tell that when she so willingly leaves her husband for him, immediately.
She's like instantly leaves some other guy that I don't even remember.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like, oh, my husband's over there. He's like, I don't give a fuck. Let's go. And she did. But I'll say past creation of bomb, I'm not as into it anymore, but that's, I guess, what the people like about this movie. I haven't read very many reviews. I know I've been talking a while already, but I haven't read very much about what people think about this, other than I know it's very well rated right now. So I'm interested to hear more about the negatives that everyone's feeling, because overall I do think this is very good. I didn't mind the length. I think the ending is as typical. I feel like it's always a flop at the end, but what can you do ending a movie like this, I guess, but show what happened. That's what I feel about, like, based on a true story type of stuff. How much can you finagle it around to make it interesting? But overall, I did enjoy this, and luckily I was sitting next to an old gentleman that was very quiet the whole time, so I wasn't bothered by anyone in the theater.
Well, I think we're setting up contrast for our other review. as far as theater going experiences. But Oppenheimer,
it is important to me.
It is.
The theater experience makes or breaks sometimes.
The Oppenheimer experience is exceptionally good, respectful, quality theater experience all around. Sound quality was decent. Good. Oppenheimer was a very good experience. And then we'll talk about the other one. Yeah, Oppenheimer is amazing. It's awesome. This is one of the best movies of the year. It's going to win all the Oscars. It's going to get a dozen nominations. It's great, and it lived up to my hype. And it's. I didn't even know what it was going to be like what to really do with a biopic for Christopher Nolan, the guy who makes. I don't know. He's gonna make a movie about like an Elvis or like a Judy or a Aretha movie. Like what? Like how's he gonna? He's gonna make it about the guy and the maid who bought the bomb. So I'm like, okay, that's the most Christopher Nolan biopic subject you could pick, at least. So things are lining up. And the first, I'd say, 2 hours is basically just like. We're cutting back from the trial / hearing, all that stuff, and into the past, and we're coming up kind of conventionally, and he's doing stuff with his students, and he gets recruited, and we learn about all the myriad 30 characters in his life that we're going to meet along the way, and then the last third, like he creates the bomb, and like that build up, you get all that good tension. Good payoff, I like it. And then the third act is like a sneaky backdoor, like, this whole time I was like, what's the last act of the movie? He makes the bomb, we did it, yay! And then the 2 bombs are going off to the government, because they're gonna go and use them for their purposes, and then he's standing there like, we did it! What did I do? Wait a minute. What did I do? And then the last hour of the movie is, oh shit, what do we do? And then you realize why have we been cutting to Robert Downey Jr. this whole movie? You're like, I've been kind of understanding what him and Alden Ehrenreich and third guy are talking about, but whatever. And I'm just kind of tucking that away for now. I'm focusing on the Oppenheimer and all that stuff. And then you kind of realize in the third act that the whole reason Oppenheimer and his communism and his hard to work withness it's all just a little feud, because Strauss thought that Oppenheimer and Einstein were making fun of him behind his back one day by a pond. Mm-hmm. And so Strauss is such a petty little government man that he has to do all this bullshit that is now a giant stain for 20 years of history, Red Scare and all, because Albert Einstein gave him the cold shoulder with his little fucking
I kind of like
flat brim hat. It's amazingly petty. I loved the third act of it. So I disagree with a little bit, Nicole, because I didn't know, like, on the third act, the first 2/3 are just like great, solid Christopher Nolan cross-cutting around between, Griffin mentioned it, the like nucleus and the electrons exploding, but also he does this thing, and he does it in almost all his movies, where it's cross-cutting, it's like long montage. He's basically telling 3 things at once by cutting all these different timelines together. And I know, Nicole, for you that you said that you can kind of have trouble keeping up sometimes, but when it works, like when they're building the bomb at the same time as the government's building the town, at the same time as everyone's like, we're following like 4 different storylines kind of concurrently, but we do it not in like a 30-second minute montage. We're doing it for a long time, and he does it for long stretches, and then bomb. And then last hour of pettiness fight in little rooms and close-up shots and what have I done? Oppenheimer's great. I don't know how Moake can not like this. So let's...
The thing about it, the cutting back and forth between...
And time frames.
It gets so messy of like, where are we? What country are we in? Are we in Germany? Are we back in the US? Are we in London? They're talking about German scientists, but they're not allowed to speak with them. But the one guy, not Gary Oldman, the other guy, Kenneth Branagh's character is like a liaison between them. Like, what the fuck is going on with all of this? Aren't they all at the Communist Party at one time? Like the hangout where they meet, where he meets the girlfriend. I can't remember her name, but like, what is happening?
Yeah.
What is happening here?
Well, I mean, maybe you might have trouble with like the scene-to-scene movement of things. I think it's more of understanding the movement of the whole piece as opposed to the individual scene. It doesn't matter what they're talking about in each individual scene. You know, at this time.
Then why the fuck is it 2 hours worth of our time?
It actually does matter. It matters to someone like me who likes to see a movie and understand what's going on and not have to wait till the 2 hour 49-minute mark for it to pay off. I hate that. I hate that.
I disagree. 2 hour 49 minutes. It's at most it's like the hour 50-minute mark, which is just the 2/3.
I don't think so. The payoff is at the end where we find out what Einstein says to Oppenheimer, and we see, right before that, we see Robert Downey Jr. losing his shit because he doesn't get the appointment.
Oh, it's like that's not the only that's a nice button, but I would say you don't need to hang on that and not enjoy the rest of the movie until that payoff comes.
Well, do you really think that this whole movie is literally about making a bomb, or do you think it's about all the back end stuff that happened because of this?
It's about the bomb until you realize it's actually about the back end stuff.
And that's what Mama K is saying, that doesn't happen until he loses the cabinet, and all this was for nothing.
But we
could have avoided all this.
You could, but
then it's really not even about Oppenheimer. It's about the situational things going on, and I don't buy you have to buy into a couple things, and one of them I don't buy into is the fact that he's set on creating this bomb because he talked with Matt Damon about the time frame. If we don't do it in this time frame, the Germans are this far behind us or this far ahead of us. I can't remember what it was. But I don't buy the whole oh shit, I've created this bomb, now they're going to use it. What did you think they were going to do with it?
Well, I think he secretly wanted to do it though, because he wants to end the war. He was a Jewish scientist that was in America that was one.
Are you saying you don't buy Oppenheimer's motive? Like the guy who really did the thing he did?
I don't buy that he all of a sudden was like, wait, I did this majorly cool scientific thing, and this is really world changing, and now you're going to actually use it against people, and then he feels
I think the original idea was to threaten them to use it with, not actually use it. I think they were.
That's what Oppenheimer was. Yes, Griffin's right.
Why'd they make 3 then?
Oppenheimer was naive enough to think that they would use it as a threat to keep people away, not that we would use it to impose our will. He thought by creating it would end. Remember, he says it all the time, he's idealistic. He thinks this will end wars, not this is a new weapon in wars. He thought the threat of this, now everyone will stop fighting because we can't.
That is terribly naive.
But not only is that what the movie has you believe, that's what the true Oppenheimer did. He basically said, I regret making the bomb and I regret doing these things because I didn't realize till it was too I'd already done it what I had done. That's the point of.
Well, what is the point of Oppenheimer? Was going to use the bomb.
It is, but I think that's a cop out.
You think that's a cop out?
I do think it's a cop out.
It's the point of I want to build and the whole thing is that they say in the first 20 seconds, Prometheus steals fire from the gods, and then
I got it.
Yeah, so why you don't? I don't understand. You're that's a bad premise for a movie. Prometheus steals fire from the gods. That's a bad premise, and learns to regret it. Lives to regret it.
No, I don't think that that's a bad premise for the movie, but I think that in real life, that for somebody as smart as he is and knowing what's happening around the world, it's patently too naive to think that it's not.
Well, they say he's a
used.
Scientist who's he's a really smart scientist, but he's also not thinking about the political aspects of it until the end of the movie when he actually discovers what they're going to do with it.
Yeah, I buy that he wouldn't he would think.
What else could he expect having a fucking general be the leader?
He's just doing what he's doing. Well, he's following orders. Yeah. He's following orders. He thinks government will make you let you do this big thing, and it's for the U.S. It's gonna help end the war. It's gonna help us fight wars forever. It's gonna help us end the Great War, the Second Great War. This will be the war to end all wars. That's what he's thinking at this time. He's not thinking about.
I know, but do you think he's thinking that and naively not understanding that the way to end the war is by actually using the weapon?
I guess you have remember when he sits down with Truman, and he's it's one thing to theorize about it. It's another thing in the movie. It's one thing to be this could work and this will work and this could end the war. But when they have to sit down in the hard room with the 20 people in it and they're all right, we got 14 cities, thousands of people are going to die. Who's going to die today? Like, you have to do it. And like, he just isn't. He doesn't have the stomach for it. He's not. He's just not ready for it. Like, he didn't think about how it's going to impact him like that.
That is, I can't believe that.
When he's talking to his cohort, Josh Hartnett's character, Dr. Lawrence, I feel like they have completely different vibes about it. I don't even know how to explain it. Like, I think that Dr. Lawrence sees he sees what's happening here, trying to persuade Oppenheimer into his mindset. Like, this is what's going to happen. Like, you are getting way too political into this. They allude to that with all of the unionizing and things that Oppenheimer is allowing in his classroom. Like, it blows me away to think that, I agree, someone as smart as Oppenheimer can totally look past that this is going to be used for specific government use. It's not like, oh, this is just a little threat. I'm making 3 atomic bombs. They're not just going to sit in storage. Like, if he listened to what Lawrence has said to him, I think that it would have had a way different outcome. You know, I can't fully believe that he didn't know what was going to happen there.
It's just hard to blame that on, like, if we're grading the film, it's hard to blame the film for portraying Oppenheimer's true, what he really did. Like, if we made the film different and had Oppenheimer, like, be like, oh, I knew the consequences and I always knew, like, you can't, then you're not portraying Oppenheimer as he was in real life, and then you're not being faithful to a biopic source material. I feel like that's not the right choice, Mama K. Like, your hang-up is on reality. Your hang-up is on how the man really was.
No, my hang-up is on the believability of that reality. I don't believe that. I believe he only...
So you want Christopher Nolan to portray Oppenheimer not as he is widely remembered as? You want him to portray him as you think he secretly was?
Yeah, you just want to see him as an evil
I think that, honestly, this is... I'm just going to... Yeah, I think by making this movie, he's perpetuating a lie, honestly.
Oh. Well.
You can say no, but I totally believe it. I just can't. I mean, I know that sometimes scientists don't live in the real world very well. They live in their sciencey world really well, and they can't change a tire, or they can't, read a room or whatever. And that's not all science. I'm being, obviously, I'm casting a wide net here, but it's... I have a hard time believing somebody's like, okay, we want you to make a weapon of mass destruction to scare people. That's what? Absolutely not.
No, I mean,
you want to believe all of a sudden that you didn't do this thing. And honestly, I sound like I hate him. That's not the point. The point is somebody was going to do this, right? This is where we started. Somebody's going to do this.
Yeah. How much of this story did they choose to leave out? How many more people did he meet with? How many more times did he meet with these government officials and they told him exactly what's going on? This is all confidential information. Like, what do we know about it where they could make this film different? Or is this all we have to work off of, is that we know Oppenheimer was scared after he realized what was going on?
What it got up from the film was that he built this kind of based on fear because he was afraid that the Nazis were going to do it first, so he wanted to do it before the Nazis did it.
Right. I totally agree with that, but I think that, he does have this incredible burden of responsibility for it. And it's a terrible thing to have, but some people in their lives have that burden of responsibility for things.
Well, I would argue he suffers for it. I mean, he mentally suffers for it, and his career suffers for it. Like, he is not...
He sort of suffers for it.
What do you mean he sort of suffers for it?
I don't really like him very much as a person. I don't like the
clearly.
I don't...
You don't like anything Christopher Nolan stuff. You don't like the...
I don't do. I'm not a big...
protagonists. You don't like anything about any of his anything. And I don't really get why.
It's a male masturbatory thing. That's why.
It is a male a male audience.
And
Nicole likes it.
It's a... Well,
Nicole likes the 3-hour movie. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about that, honestly.
I was going to say, it felt short.
I think that she drank the Kool-Aid, right, Griffin? Because that's what it feels like to me. Like, she heard the sound.
She heard the blah.
She heard the subliminal sounds that were going on during the movie, and a
good movie will win you over.
I need to talk a little bit about the piece that really bothered me, and that is like, why do I have to look at naked people in this movie? Why do I have to see that?
It's not that much naked people. There's like a couple naked people.
It was like one
but
scene
why do I
for,
have
like,
to see any
2
of
minutes.
that?
And they're not even bad. They're good-looking naked people. You should be.
I don't disagree. I mean, that's
could be much worse.
A fucking dude thing to say. But why do I have to see that in this movie? What does that add?
You get to see a guy and girl naked, so it's
Yeah.
gender
He's a
equality.
real
You
guy.
see a guy and girl naked, so really it helps both parties.
No, that's not. It's not Jen.
I missed the guy naked. Who was naked?
Cillian Murphy was naked, and that is not the same. I would I mean, if you're going to show somebody naked, make it at least equal to Florence Pugh. So,
Right,
I mean, come on.
This is so like, and actually, I now that you actually talked about it, and now I'm talking myself into actually liking it more because so they're naked in that one scene, but then like 5 minutes later, it's setting up the scene after that where Cillian Murphy has to admit basically that he spent the night with Florence Pugh, and then he does the thing where it's like they're naked in the interrogation room, and Emily Blunt sees them banging on the chair and like fantasy sequence kind of thing.
Yeah, I
and that adds to the movie. How?
It adds to Emily Blunt, like, us realizing why she's extra, like,
why she's, like, traumatized
she's
and, like, drinking all the time.
She was like that before then, though.
This adds.
She was like that before. No, it doesn't.
It adds to Oppenheimer being not
no.
like, it makes him, like you say, he's a flawed character, you know?
He's
not
a good guy, man. It's kind of a gray area of them, like, kind of.
We need that color, that complication, that additional context.
I don't need that. And I don't think other women in the theater needed it either. And let's talk about the other women in the theater. The 6 other women in the 85 or 90 seat theater watching this movie. Because let's be clear about who saw this movie. Yeah,
Our theater was packed. Our theater was packed of people.
Packed with what?
I did.
It was actually a very mixed crowd. We were sitting next to some 70-somethings, group of 4 of them. And then in front of us was a group of 4 late teenagers.
I saw like some.
So there was quite a mix.
Boys and girls.
Oh wow, they're seeing Oppenheimer.
Males and females.
Oh really? Wow.
There were males and females in Oppenheimer. Yeah. There were yes. Like
in what capacity? Because
there were not groups of girls in Oppenheimer, but I would say that most of the people in Oppenheimer were couples or like friends of couple, like, you know, it was not an 80% male crowd. All right, it was a pretty common looking movie crowd.
Yeah, that's not what my experience was.
What was your experience? What was Maine like these days?
My experience was a bunch of dudes, and afterwards, the younger crowd of like 8 dudes who went in to see it together were like, oh my god, it was like the pentacle of the most awesome of the best
Did
ever.
They all explain
and I don't
to you
even
how good
know
it was? Because that would be the best thing.
And they were all just like totally, if they could, they were broing out. Yeah, the nuances. If they pulled out a hacky sack and started playing, I wouldn't have, it would have been exactly perfect.
You didn't understand the nuances of Oppenheimer.
It was just, yeah, exactly. You don't understand. Are you trying to say they were all knowable?
You mean Prima?
The thing about this one too is like people will pick on Inception for being hard to understand, or Tenet. I understand.
Yeah, I get that.
For being hard to understand. This is extreme. I think this is pretty a straightforward movie. Like I think I'm looking at other than the Dark Knight trilogy, this is probably his most accessible movie. Other than it
probably is, but I honestly couldn't keep the dudes straight. I mean, there's Cillian Murphy, Robert Downey Jr., Matt Damon, and everybody else.
There's 60 white guys. So what are you gonna do? Like that's
it was
the military and scientists.
There's a lot of famous people in there, mostly scientists, like in the background. It's hard to shed light on all of them.
I'm done watching movies about dudes. I'm all done glorifying guys.
We'll get to that
I'm all done with it. Let's move on. Well, I think we might, but I'm just like, this is setting me up for,
It's not really.
Let's talk about who you did like, if anybody, in this. I mean, you got quite a variety to choose from.
Performance-wise, I don't know. I mean, Cillian Murphy's a good actor, but all I kept seeing in this movie was his giant face in front of me, and I'm like, that's not acting. That's a dude's face. I don't really, I don't care about your face.
You just don't like Cillian Murphy.
Robert Downey Jr. was good. I kept waiting for Matt Damon.
You could not just shrug and say Robert Downey Jr. was good and move on.
Yeah,
he was unrecognizably great. He was so good.
Yeah, he was surprisingly good. I thought he wasn't going to be good.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead. Robert Downey Jr. was so good.
Supporting actor nomination on the way.
Yeah, he's probably going to get that, and he deserves it for this because it's a good. I mean, he's very much angry Iron Man in this movie, so I'm going to go ahead and say it.
Oh my god, unrecognizable.
Not
unrecognized.
Him
in about 15 minutes.
Thank you. It takes you a while. You're like, oh shit, that's Robert. Like I didn't.
Yeah, I couldn't tell.
Oh, not me. I'm so much better than that.
I saw him. No, I saw him. It was immediate. Matt Damon. I did expect him to crack up like he was in a skit.
I didn't really love Matt Damon
because that's the way it felt to me a little bit.
Yeah, that's how I always feel about Matt Damon. I feel about Matt Damon.
But. Yeah, and then whoever played Albert Einstein did a great job. He looked just like Albert Einstein.
I like his hat.
Yeah, I like his hat.
That's a good thing, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Griffin, you said you liked Emily
Emily
Blunt,
was great. She was probably my second favorite besides...
Yeah, I didn't have that same feeling.
Besides Cillian Murphy.
I didn't either.
She was probably the best just because her scenes...
She felt like Girl on a Train again. It felt sort of that same performance.
I do want to point out a cast of 80 men. There are 3 women. Nicole picks out the one woman. It was pretty good. Except for that woman. Who was the woman?
She's like, let's talk about women some more.
She didn't call Florence Pugh. We like Florence Pugh, and she dies very quickly, so it's okay. But Emily Blunt won't go away. She's just hanging around all the men in these movies. We're gonna get her out of this.
Let's talk about Florence Pugh for a second. Is she murdered in this movie?
That's what
this is my question.
That's what I thought.
In real life, she
but
did
they showed a black
suicide.
glove.
But yeah.
Yeah, but did she?
Well, that's what they're implying.
That she
I have
killed
no
herself.
idea if there's a conspiracy.
I think she left like a note for Oppenheimer and then just like left.
Unsigned.
She is a commie, so they don't like
that bitch. Was that note was unsigned. So
yeah, that's true.
Well, there you go.
So like ambiguous, I guess.
Yeah.
Let me tell you who my favorite character is.
Yeah. That was like a little like thread though that didn't go anywhere, so it was kind of annoying for me because there was the scene with there was a black gloved hand.
I swear, I thought there was one too.
There was.
No, there was. I think you were right, Nicole, and yeah, I think there was one.
I think it was all probably a cover up in real life, saying she could commit suicide, but whoever, maybe someone in the government or had a hitman or something,
I like that they have Rami Malek just standing around saying nothing for a long time, and then it's revealed that he's like gonna come in and drop a bomb.
I didn't even realize it was Rami Malek until you dropped the bomb the whole time.
I think I whispered to call. I'm like, this is my favorite use of Rami Malek. They have to say something, and then they tell him to shut up, and they cut away from him. That's my favorite use because I don't think Rami Malek's a very good actor.
I agree.
Let me tell you, my favorite person in this film is fucking Josh Hartnett. Oh
really?
My god. He looked so delicious in this movie.
As Ernest Lawrence?
Oh my god. I thought he was so good, and I thought he looked so good.
I thought he looked so good.
Well, he's had such a hard time like as an actor and apparently an all-around smelly person that people don't want to work with him, so.
Oh, I really enjoyed his part in this.
Yeah.
For side characters, for me, standouts are Alden Ehrenreich as the aide to Louis Strauss. So people know him most. Oh
yeah, he was actually really good.
People know him most as young Han Solo, but yeah, he's the guy who has to play off Strauss, and I think he's kind of great. And then he gets the little underhanded jab at the end of him.
Oh my god, his smirk at the end is everything.
Well, okay, you may not have enjoyed the bulk of this movie, but the politician gets his comeuppance. That's got to make you feel a little good. And
I like that.
And he the whole thing was he thought he was so important, and they weren't talking about him at all. Isn't that kind of something you would like?
Yeah, I like that, but it's a 3-hour movie, and you're giving me like 20-second tidbits. I need more.
I like how he wasn't on trial the whole time.
I need more, or I need less.
He was on trial the whole time, and then it cuts to him and then eventually at the end, he just becomes the guy that's like on trial.
Other standout is...
oh my god, wait, sorry,
I'm
going to say this before you do. You know who else was in this he played a very important role, and I was very surprised.
You're gonna
Josh Peck.
Oh, okay. No, you're not.
Josh Peck was the guy who fucking hits the button. Yes!
Drake and Josh.
I loved that!
I didn't know
How did that happen?
I know.
How did Josh Peck come out with that?
They got to do they should have done the Drake and Josh like arrow cutaways, like on the didn't Megan like white pan, and you get that, and then it cuts to him with his finger hovering over the button.
This sounds like the SNL sketch of Oppenheimer.
I'm pressing. No,
Drake Bell must.
That's not who I was going to say. Also, other Alex Wolff was also in this Naked Brothers Band. So another Disney or not
who?
Alex Wolff of the Naked Brothers Band. Recently in Pig as well. He was another one of the guys in the team.
Who does he play in this?
His character is Luis Walter Alvarez. He was recruited in the same montage as Josh Peck, but I don't remember which character he was.
Oh, yeah, I've seen him. He was in Old.
Yes, him. Yeah, that guy. He shows up in stuff. He's in Hereditary as well, and everyone thinks he's awesome in Hereditary, and I think he's so bad in Hereditary. Alex Wolff, keep an eye out. He's fun to talk about. No, I was talking. You keep derailing me. I wanted to talk about Macon Blair, the lawyer who is he's like Oppenheimer's lawyer in the trial room, and he's the one. You guys didn't send me these papers, and then he has to look at Oppenheimer and like shrug and like I don't know what's going on. He's kind of the chubby guy.
Guy in the
That's terrible, though.
Yeah, the one who's like trying to stick up for Oppenheimer, and the lawyers keep giving him the runaround. Yeah, he has no. I didn't get those papers. I love that.
You know who he should have been played by is Wayne Knight, because that seems perfect.
Yeah, Wayne Knight's. Is he even acting anymore?
No, but I feel like that's
Macon Blair is kind of new. When he's been that guy in a couple other movies. He was in Logan Lucky.
He's the new Wayne
that
Knight.
guy. Yeah, well, he's a writer director too, but he shows up in stuff like that. Like what's the other guy who does that? Tracy Walter. You know what I'm talking about.
I know Tracy Walter. I don't know what you're talking about.
They have Jack Quaid from The Boys. He's the main character from The Boys.
Quaid.
Did you just say Quad? Like Dennis Quaid?
The Jess reincarnate.
Jack Quaid is Dennis Quaid's son, so this does all check out.
That's hilarious.
The younger
couldn't fit any better.
Well, he is filling in for Jess. So, yeah.
Lord Farquaad.
Lord Jack Quaid. Lord Farquaad. Okay. All right.
Quad.
We have more talk about Oppenheimer a little bit later, and its comparison to the unnamed Barbie. Barbie and Oppenheimer, we're going to have our own separate conversation about them together. But for Oppenheimer, did we have any other notes on this film?
Yes.
Oh, Nicole, not done.
I do.
So,
as far as I know, this could be completely theoretical, but I don't think I really gave my opinion on Cillian Murphy's
performance
acting here, performance of Oppenheimer, and I think he did a great job. I think he really set into the character, that whole tug of war in his mind about what's going on. I think he did a good job of that. I do agree with you. These types of movies, they love to just fucking pan in on some old dude's face and just that's life. That's him.
And that's movie making, man.
That's movies. Yep. But
cinema, baby.
I did hear that, this was kind of going on during the same time as the actors' strike started, so I don't know if this was skewed anyway, or if it's related at all, but I believe Cillian Murphy came out and said that he, after making this film, was feeling quite depressed and really honed into this character, leaning onto the same way that Heath Ledger may have been doing with the Joker, which we know what happened with that. But yeah, it's a scary thing to think about, people that put themselves into these roles and they're so intense and they're so deeply emotional, and that's a frightening thing. So I wonder if that's true, and I hope that we've learned from the past of people that get into their roles a little too much, and what happens with that. But yeah, I wonder if that's true. That's scary.
It seems like it could be. And is that what you were alluding to earlier when you said that people who were in the movie were having, had strange misgivings afterwards? And
I wouldn't call it a misgiving, but it take actors who are serious about their craft, especially when you're in, this is the role seen by billions of people, so it's going to be pressure like no other. So it's going to be different,
Right. And your character has, there's a depression that comes with Oppenheimer because of, if you're to believe what, what they're selling.
Right. People talk about the actor getting into their role and making it better, and that's all fine and good. But what happens when they really take it too far? I mean,
right.
Like we've got Daniel Day-Lewis that can fucking do anything, and he's in the role the whole time of the movie is being shot. Oh, yeah. So even at home,
there is some
he's
great
like blinking
stories.
At home.
the best, my favorite is Liam Neeson talking about on Gangs of New York. He was only in like one scene with them, but he said he was trying to say, "Oh, hi Daniel," like behind set, and he just growled at him and said, "Oh, priest," because in the scene he has to kill him. Daniel Day-Lewis has to kill Liam Neeson, so he didn't want to even talk to him. He just growled at him.
It's crazy. Yeah,
well, I wonder you act to get away from, whatever, to immerse yourself into another life. So people who do it as a method, they're method actors, then they need definitely some deprogramming at the end of something like this.
If anyone wants fun method acting talk, Jeremy Strong interviews talking about Succession. Very, very funny.
God.
Oh, God.
Jeremy Strong is the best. He is very method and, very funny.
You could tell.
Oh, yeah, it comes through the performance. Good button hook, totally Nicole. Oppenheimer. Are we going to recommend it? Start easy. Mama K?
No. It's a waste of time.
I'm sorry, that's not the answer. That's incorrect. Griffin, Oppenheimer.
Yeah, I would recommend this movie. This is a good soulful film to show that it's really hard. Soulful? I would say soulful, but I would say more like as if you wanted to get a little hard-hitting. Get a feel,
emotional.
I think it's a good film for that.
It's getting your feels.
In the feels.
You're out of the will.
I do love Christopher Nolan. I have never really felt an emotion watching a Christopher Nolan movie. They're particularly cold and scientific and mind rewarding, which I love. But I would never call a Christopher Nolan film soulful.
I felt anyway, like this was the only movie that was actually felt like there was emotion behind Christopher Nolan, I guess.
I think people say that about Interstellar, but I haven't seen that because I'm saving it as a little treat for myself. So, Nicole?
I would recommend this to the right crowd.
94% of people.
Some people would have no business watching this, but I thought it was interesting. So
clearly, me.
I'm just saying, Nicole's usually the toughest on the 3-hour movies, and that's praise. I'm just saying. This will be probably on my top 5. I don't see how it isn't. Seems unlikely. So.
I cannot wait for that podcast.
Good luck on you can't take it to the bottom 5. I mean, it's not going to win it won't win the show anyway because Jess hasn't seen it, and I mean Nicole doesn't see as many things. Maybe this could stay on her.
Well, I guess whoever picks Oppenheimer, you can just guarantee it with the Nicole, I guess, because that's how it's going to go.
It is interesting. I was going to say it's kind of a year of the blockbuster that isn't of the Marvel movies because biggest blockbuster grosser was the Mario Brothers movies, and this is conversation better for a different podcast that we have coming up. So I'm going to save it because we have 3 recommends and 1 not recommend for Oppenheimer, which is shocking that it's not unanimous. It should be unanimous. I'm sorry, but it's still...
I'm going to be looking for people who want to be written into my will. I mean, it's a pretty sweet offer.
Did your husband enjoy Oppenheimer?
Family is out.
Did your husband enjoy Oppenheimer?
That's good.
I imagine he did. I imagine he did.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was good.
It was good.
Yeah, it's good.
If it's a matter of that, we hated it.
If it's a matter of that.
Yeah, I mean, I can switch my opinion. For the right
all artistic integrity out the window once the will gets brought up.
Much like Oppenheimer.
Oh, you think he would do?
See, we're all great.
Yep.
We're all great characters. I just got to do what's best for me.
Yep.
We have a review of Barbie coming up next. You should be able to. And then we're going to have our discussion of Barbenheimer. So that's going to be talking about Barbie and Oppenheimer together, the phenomenon, and comparing against each other, the similarities, differences, why, maybe some other films that are out right now, and what's going on. So, in the meantime, if you have things to recommend to us, we'll get back into regular stuff in August. Films with the Woman in My Life on Facebook. Reach out to me on Instagram. I'm Brennan_podhost. And you can email the show, filmswiththewomen@gmail.com. Thank you guys for being on for Oppenheimer. All right, talk to y'all shortly for Barbie.
Thanks for listening to Films with the Women in My Life. If you enjoyed being a listener in our life, please rate and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or on your favorite podcast app. Keep up with the latest from the show on Instagram at Brennan_podhost, on Facebook at Films with the Women in My Life, and on Twitter at FilmsWomenPod. Finally, you can email the show with questions and suggestions at filmswiththewomen@gmail.com. Original music for the show was created by Ian Burke and Chris Iwanek. Original artwork created by Nicole D'Alessio. This show is produced by Brennan Snyder. Thank you again for listening and enjoy your movies.